Hello and welcome to Get Involved Referee, when we're talking Motherwell penalties, or were they penalties, corruption at one of the biggest clubs in European football, and even the Scotland captain getting involved with an assistant referee, and the assistant referee getting off scot-free. Joining us to discuss it all tonight, Steve Conroy and Des Roach. Welcome, gentlemen.
Evening.
Quite a week, actually, in all kinds of aspects of the game. And I also want to get your thoughts on the whole WSPL incident as well, involving Fran Alonso and Craig McPherson, in the sense of the punishment that was meted out for that particular aspect. But if you don't mind, can we start with Andy Robertson? Because I think it was quite interesting. I mean, obviously it happened last week in the 2-2 game with Arsenal. You know, obviously Robertson's gone to remonstrate with the assistant referee, Des, and next minute he gets an elbow in the mouth.
Yeah, I think it looks far worse than what actually was coming out from it. I know Andrew Robertson went to speak to him. He's held his arm or whatever you want to say, and the referees or assistant referees flicked out. I think the way that it's been handled down England has been very good. They've managed it. I believe Andrew Robertson and the assistant referee have spoken. They've had words, exchanged words. Do I think it merited more? I think what could have been done was maybe just take him out of the limelight for a couple of weeks, let things sort of settle down, as Steve and I have experienced in the past. But yeah, I think it didn't look good on the image of the game and the image of match officials. But certainly glad to see that Andrew Robertson and the gentleman involved have came to an agreement and a resolution.
Mm-hmm. Konstantin Hatzidakis is the fellow's name, and he's quite a big, powerful unit. He was certainly much bigger than Andy.
Well, I have to say, I wouldn't fancy taking an elbow in the mouth from that guy. But I do think, and although you never want to see people banned or whatever, what I've always said, or have said always, as if it happens every week, if that had happened in reverse, there would have been huge clamour for Andy Robertson to be sent off, to be substantial ban, and it would have been merited. Personally, I think that he should have. I think he should have received a ban. I don't see how there can be any mitigation at all for elbowing somebody in the face. And some of the people in at least one of our web chats was saying, WhatsApp chats was saying, you don't touch the ref. You can touch the ref in a non-threatening, non-violent manner, and certainly you and I, that was our style. We used to do it in reverse, but you don't go elbowing people in the face.
No, I can agree with that. But I think what they couldn't have done is that they couldn't have hung him out to dry, because it's such a massive league and such a massive globalised view on it. And that's what I was saying. Maybe if they sat him out for a couple of weeks, just go to Dubai, go for a holiday.
But literally no action whatsoever, which surprised me.
That's surprising. That's surprising. There's nothing. What I would have thought the English FA may have said was Konstantinos isn't available for selection for a couple of weeks. I think that would have been a more palatable way to come round it.
There certainly should have been something. You can't do that and have absolutely no repercussions. They're setting themselves up. If that does happen in reverse, then you've got a ready-made argument. Yeah,
the narrative seems to be down there, Steve, that Andy Robertson was at fault here, because he went over and berated and remonstrated with the assistant, pulled his arm or tugged his arm a little bit, provoking this flying elbow. Is there any mitigation for that?
No, there's no mitigation for elbowing somebody in the face. You don't go to your work to have that happening to you. And what I say, and I will keep saying it, is if that happens in reverse, he's sent off and got an umpteen week/month ban.
It wasn't quite like the one we saw in, was it Ayrshire Juniors that you posted a couple of weeks back with flying off and put the head in somebody?
That was the amateur referee.
The amateur referee.
Jeez.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, I mean, he was going out like Anthony Joshua there. He was taking no prisoners. And quite rightly, I agree with Steve by saying this whole you can't touch a referee. I've had it numerous times, and Steve will be the same, where they've tugged your jersey, they've pulled your hand going, Des, come on, what's happening here? And that's absolutely fine. But it's about that management and relationship that you have with people, and it's acceptable. It's not aggressive. That's entirely acceptable in my opinion. If somebody just wants to have a wee question and they've just give you a wee tug in the jersey or whatever.
The only thing again to say in that is, so long as that's acceptable the other way about.
Of course.
And we've all had games where you've gone to, do the same thing. Here, come here, that's good for radio. And you've tried to get a player's attention, and the hackles go up and they say, oh, don't touch me. What's good for the goose is good for the gander.
How many times have you had to step between two players and separate them, and you're pushing them back? There's nothing ever been picked up upon that, because it's again, it's acceptable behaviour.
Yeah, I think some of the refs will be quite pleased, actually, down there, that one of their own has been able to
stick one on
somebody, you know what I mean, and get away with it. They're staying in the theme of punishments that fit the crime or not. Obviously, the big controversy in the Rangers Celtic Women's Premier League game, Craig McPherson, for reasons best known to himself, went over and aimed a headbutt at Fran Alonso, the Celtic manager, after the game, live on Sky Sports, of all the games to do it. A 6-match ban has been handed down. Is that too lenient, Steve?
Without a shadow of a doubt. That's even worse, I think, than the one we've just been discussing, because you can't even say it was a rush of blood. You can't say it was adrenaline, because he sought the guy out.
Yep.
He deliberately and with forethought looked for the guy, searched him out, and stuck the head on him when he was looking in the opposite direction. That's criminal. It's not just football, that's absolutely criminal.
And apparently, from what you're led to believe, there was previous to it, and I think he called him a little rat or something. So there've obviously been something going on at the sidelines. And as you say, he sought him out in particular and said, right, okay, you're getting one. Yeah, I think the 6-game ban is very lenient, purely because it was premeditated. But again, according to news sources, they've spoken, and Fran Alonso has wiped it. I wouldn't say right, it's done. But I think that's entirely wrong.
No. I mean, it's the optics of the thing. I mean, you'll remember the famous Celtic Rangers Scottish Cup replay when wee Lenny and McCoy squared up to each other, and the next minute, there's a Scottish government summit on football. Nothing like what happened in this ladies.
No, absolutely nothing. It was. I just say it was criminal. If I was running an organisation, I would have sacked them. And it's funny, I was talking to one of our ref colleagues over the weekend discussing that, and he was involved in a game where, and it wasn't even physical, there was a threat to assault the referee, but it was averted. That guy got 12 games. He got 12 games for saying he was going to do it, and this McPherson character got 6 for actually carrying out a bodily assault.
You reckon Rangers should have dismissed him then?
Yes, absolutely.
For gross misconduct.
Gross misconduct. You can't have that as part of your organisation. That's a senior management position that he has in the organisation, and he's allowed, in inverted commas, to go about nutting people. No, not acceptable.
The other thing, Des, is that, I mean, for example, we talked earlier in the season about Jim Goodwin when he was, remember the old days when he was the Aberdeen manager?
The good old days.
That was about 3 weeks ago.
He was given an 8-match ban for daring to call Ryan Porteous a cheat for diving in the penalty box to earn a penalty, which we all thought was a dive. So for saying something like that, he gets 8 games. For assaulting someone, you only get 6.
There's no comparative that you can put that against. By you saying something, listen, it's an opinion that Jim's obviously offered at that moment in time, but to get that length of ban compared to a physical assault, what if that guy had done that in the street? What if he'd done it at Glasgow Central Station and a police officer was walking by and I happened to see it? It'd be getting more than a 6-game ban. So no, absolutely no comparison. But again, what goes on at Ivory Towers, nobody knows. And they don't explain either how they've come to that decision, Steve. That's the other frustrating aspect.
Again, I keep using the word contempt. Everything that's been happening so far, not a word. And that's obviously how they feel that we, all as punters, should be treated. Yeah.
It's the as I've said before, they're the hide and seek champions of Hampden. It's utterly ridiculous. The big explosive story across Europe just now is the investigation into Barcelona, guys. Quite a remarkable tale, isn't it? I mean, allegedly, or well, not even allegedly, they paid over €7 million to 3 different companies owned by the head of referees in Spain, ostensibly to get background studies on potential referees during a sort of 15-20 year period. Scouting reports on referees. Scouting reports, there you go. Yeah. I think that was the words. You must be staggered by that, aren't you? Beyond staggered. Absolutely beyond staggered. We shouldn't be, because we know that in every walk of life there is corruption involved, but to have that at such a level and involving such a club as established as that. But we've seen it with Juventus, we've seen it with Marseille back to the Bernard Tapie days. It shouldn't surprise you, but it's utterly unfathomable. I wish I had shares in the company that was receiving it. But yeah, it's horrible. It's actually horrible to think that the game is getting to that level where you can't trust an authority to take themselves in the right manner, and in such a club like Barcelona as well. It's ridiculous. Horrible. I
mean, don't get me wrong, they haven't been found guilty of anything yet, Steve. UEFA and the Spanish authorities are investigating. They're obviously taking it very seriously, that's for sure. But it doesn't look very good, does it?
No, it doesn't look very good at all. And I hate the fact, and all right, we've got nothing to do with the Spanish Referee Association, but anything to do with refereeing, I and we always assume that referees should be above approach. And even beyond that, your guy in charge, there should never ever be a finger of doubt pointed. And if and when they're found guilty of corruption, that just taints all of us.
Yeah, I think the word that when the referee strike happened years ago, it was questioning the integrity of the match officials.
Yes.
And I think that word integrity has to be held higher than anything. It's your integrity that you know what you're doing is an honest job. Whether you get it right or whether you get it wrong, you get it wrong honestly, and it's not a prejudged. So no, I think the integrity is highly in question here.
That's part of what really, really annoys me about the Andrew Robertson incident that we talked about. The referee should always be above reproach.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see how this develops. I mean, Barcelona, obviously one of the leading clubs in the world, particularly in the last 30 years, 25 years, Champions League winners, multiple La Liga title winners. You wonder what will happen in terms of the ramifications of all of this.
I think we all, certainly in the past 20 years, have loved Barcelona because they played absolutely beautiful, beautiful football. And if there's any doubt in your head that if that's been bought by cheating and corruption, that leaves such a bad taste in the mouth.
And they've got such a good team. You think back, Messi, Piqué, Ronaldinho, etc. You think, just do your winning on the park. You don't need to be involved in that. Just do what you need to do. Samuel Eto'o. Yeah, it's very, very disappointing.
And sadly, more ugliness in the back of the Old Firm game as well, which we discussed before. But just to bring it forward a bit, Kevin obviously getting a lot of abuse online after his details were leaked, which is utterly appalling. But how will he be feeling now? I mean, obviously he was on VAR at the weekend, so that got him off the pitch, if you like. He'll be back in the pitch in the fullness of time, that's for sure. But is he the type of guy who'll handle that okay, do you think, lad?
I think he'll be fine.
Yeah.
Obviously, the same as any one of us, he would have hated what happened and hate the fact that it happened to himself, but hate the fact that because I don't think he did anything wrong. Again, it's an opinion. But because of a game of football that he's involved in, something's come home to his kids. It's just, you can't get your head round the stupidity of some people. But I think he'll be all right. He won't put it behind him. Nobody could, but he'll compartmentalise it. He'll box it away somewhere, revisit it when he needs to, but he'll be fine when he comes back.
Kevin's been round the block long enough that he knows. What's disappointing is it's somebody who obviously knows him and has his details has made that public. That's absolutely
disgusting.
It's disgusting. Yeah. I think he would have had a rough couple of days, but I bet you right now the first thing he wants to do, he wants to get back in that pitch and go, right, do you know what, let's move on, let's progress, we can't go back. But to have your personal details and your family, listen, come for me, don't come for my wife, don't come for my kids. That's absolutely fine.
Aye, absolutely.
And I hope he does, and do you know what, I hope he goes out and he has an absolute brilliant game in his first one back.
I hope he has a blinder. Yeah.
I think we've said it before, but you would just hope that some of these culprits are brought to book on this instance and really hammered for their actions.
I'm not a lawyer, but it's a definition of a breach of the peace, not putting somebody at a state of fear and alarm. You can't get much more fearful or alarmed than your children being threatened. I'd be sanctioning. I'm sounding like a Tory here. I'd be sanctioning these guys getting sent to prison. Absolutely.
No. I can fully understand it, and that's the only way you're going to get the message out there, Des. In terms of you just can't abuse people on social media. Yeah,
it's faceless, isn't it? It's a keyboard warrior.
Cowards.
Absolutely. Steve's just used the word. It's cowards. Keyboard warriors. They've got no defence. No, entirely incorrect.
And it doesn't look good on Rangers either, because they've made it public that they were sending a letter to the SFA to complain about, or rather to ask questions about, one particular decision that Kevin made in that league match at Celtic Park.
It's pathetic, quite frankly. And they've got an equivalent on both sides of the divide. There are some very, very dangerous, cretinous people out there that don't need much more stoking than being at a Celtic Rangers game. That really is pathetic. Or we're going to write a letter to ask for clarification. I'll tell you the clarification. He didn't think it was a foul.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or he thought it was a foul, didn't think it was a goal. End of story.
All Rangers had to do was, after the game, send their delegate or send a letter and say, can you explain that decision? Why are you writing letters to the SFA? Why are you going down that road?
Well, unfortunately, all the clubs are doing it. Celtic did it at the end of last year, before the World Cup,
and they're entirely wrong as well. That shouldn't be the way that any club, Celtic, Rangers, Kilmarnock or Broth, deal with there and then. It's an opinion piece. Do I think it's a foul, free kick, penalty, whatever it may be? Yes, no, done. Are you going to Rangers or Celtic or Broth going to be sending a letter to their player because they made a wrong pass? Absolutely not. What's the difference?
No, exactly. In the terms of the weekend action, lads, quite an interesting game at Fir Park, where Dundee United got a very good result, rather, in their pursuit to try and stay in the Premiership. But 2 penalty calls, 1 given, 1 not, and not only was the second one not given, Stephen Fletcher was booked by Nick Walsh for simulation.
Yep, and I have to say that I think that they were both the same incident. It can be argued, but I think they were one and the same. If you're cautioning one, you're cautioning number 2, and I personally think that they were both fouls.
It looked very similar, doesn't it, Des? I mean, Stephen Fletcher's running through, Liam Kelly comes out, the striker sticks the ball past him, and Kelly takes him out. Yeah,
I agree. I think both incidents were exactly the same. Where we maybe differ is the goalkeepers went to try and catch it with his hands or save it with his hands, which he's entitled to. He's the only person that can do that. Mm-hmm. But the difficulty then comes as you're going, and it shouldn't be a difficulty. Let me take that. Shouldn't be a difficulty. If you're cautioning one, you've got to caution the other one, and that results in the goalkeeper being off. Mm-hmm. See, if he didn't caution the first one, I'd have been okay with that. That's fine. The goalkeeper's entitled to make that challenge. But they were both exactly the same. I don't see any difference whatsoever, and I think Stephen Fletcher can feel really hard done to be cautioned for simulation. And I'm surprised that VAR never overturned that one.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Why did VAR not say to Nick, this is quite similar to the first one, you better have a look at this, mate?
Because I keep saying, we've talked about it, we're at variance. If we are at different opinions of that incident, that means it's not clear and obvious.
Yep. So
it's an opinion. So VAR shouldn't be involved in an opinion. So I'm perfectly happy that VAR, he might have been going, oh, do you know that? I might have cautioned that. But that's an opinion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. It's like when Steve and I worked together, I would offer an opinion and say, Steve, I got a good
Never
view
took
on
it
though. You should have.
Aye, once or twice.
Once or twice. I would say to Steve, I think this has happened. But it's like, and I always go back to, it's like an assistant manager and a manager. The assistant manager can offer his opinion to the manager, and it's up to the manager whether he wants to accept that opinion. It's the exact same with VAR, fourth officials, and the referee. If the referee says, no, I'm quite happy, you're okay, well, all bets are off, just crack on. But again, it's an opinion. That's what it comes down to.
Is that a slight anomaly of the VAR system, in the sense that it's a key moment in the game, it's a key decision in the game, so if even if the VAR doesn't think it's a clear and obvious error, should he not ask the referee to go and look at it anyway?
No, if it's not a clear and obvious error, it's nothing to do with VAR.
And it's not to say
I know that's the current situation, but I'm just wondering.
Right, I see what you mean.
I'm just wondering if that's something that might need to be refined down the line.
That's re-refereeing it again, isn't it?
And so it is re-refereeing.
Yeah, re-refereeing it, and that's not the.
Yeah, wouldn't thank you for it.
No.
By extension, if we debate that one on VAR, the next steps to debate something else. We're already saying, VAR's taking 7 minutes, 7 days to come to a decision. It'd be an American football game. You'd be taking your picnic. So no.
You've done that during games.
Only ones you were advising. It's not perfect, and nothing is perfect. So nope. If it's not a matter of fact and a clear and obvious error, VAR doesn't belong in it.
And that's sanitising the game again. Football's a game of skill and error, and the best players have more skills and less errors. The best referees have more skills and less errors. You can't take the human element out of it.
But like you say, Stephen Fletcher was the one who carried the can for that by getting a yellow card, and that might cause Dundee United problems down the line in terms of a suspension. He isn't suspended, but he might get booked next week, and that could put him out post split. So you can't appeal a yellow card.
You can't appeal it. But and I know where you're going with that, but one decision doesn't decide whether you get relegated or not. They're at the bottom for a reason, and that one decision, whether you agree with it or not, is not going to get Stephen Fletcher and Dundee United relegated.
The fact that Dundee United are on to their third manager this season tells you why they're there. Not by Nick giving Stephen Fletcher a yellow card for simulation. It's look at the 20 odd other games that have gone before it.
No, exactly. But it didn't affect the outcome. Dundee United won the game, so from that point of view, it didn't have any detrimental effect on them greatly. So that was, I suppose, the bonus from it.
Yeah, it won't help Mr. Fletcher. He'll still be a bit sore at it, but at least they still won.
Exactly. Otherwise, it was a fairly quiet weekend. We hopefully there'll be some more action this weekend. We imagine there will be.
Yes, I would think.
I think there could be a few tempestuous moments, as it always will be within Scottish football. But again, like we all say, we hope the referees get it right and they come out the other side on smelling rosy.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Well, one more set of fixtures before the sort of three phases of the games come to a conclusion, and we go into the post-split scenario. But in between times, the small matter of an Old Firm Scottish Cup finals, semi-final rather. So we'll look forward to that one as well, lads.
That'll be a nice quiet one.
Yeah, do you know what? I think this is going to be the big one. I think because the league's done, Rangers have to win the Scottish Cup. The only good thing is, look how far apart's the dugout out at Hampden, so that might save us. That might save the officials a wee bit better. But yeah, I think this is going to be a big one.
Yeah,
excellent. Look forward to discussing this at great length next Monday. We'll see you next time on Get Involved Referee.